Geocachomaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Well, welcome to Geo Gearheads, the weekly show about geocaching and geo-related gaming, outdoor gaming of some sort, right? I'd like to introduce you to a new geocacher, not been behind the mic very long. His name, Daryl W4.
You know, it really feels like it because it's been 3 weeks now since I've been in studio, and which is not entirely true. So 3 weeks since I've been on air in studio. And it was kind of weird coming back in today and, you know, firing everything up, sitting down, but it feels good to be back.
Well, Daryl, it's good to have you back.
And it's good to be feeling well enough to be back.
Yes, you can actually talk this week.
I can.
Interesting concept.
I know. You know, what a novel idea being able to talk if you're a podcaster.
Yes.
Though I kind of feel like people are actually like hearing some of it still in my voice.
You know, you sound pretty good. So I'm happy to have you back. You know, I can hold the podcast for so long, but really, Daryl, it's all about you.
And Limax wants to know what microphones we're using because they look different. They haven't changed.
No.
I'm using the Electro Voice RE27.
And I'm using the Heil PR40.
So there you go. A little bit of inside baseball. But next week, we're actually going to do something a little bit different from normal. And I don't mean you wearing orange.
But I'm so very orange.
You are very orange.
Limax, let us know the word that rhymes with orange, and then you can have more conversation. Until then, nothing.
Yes. But so next week is Thanksgiving holiday in the States, and we've never actually taken a week off. You know, we've had some guests come in, done the show with us, but we've never taken the week off. So we're going to take a week off for a change and do a rerun of a rather interesting early episode. So we're going to do a wrapper on there, post it to the feed as if it's a normal show, but we really want to hear what you guys think about the content. How much has changed in the years since that episode aired, and how much has stayed the same?
Oh, so much has changed. But yet, things stay the same. Isn't technology and changing great?
And the game of geocaching has changed so much, yet in so many ways it stays the same. So it's kind of fun to go back and check out those early episodes. So we're going to do that and then be back the following week with another live episode. And we haven't gotten that one scheduled yet. So probably not a randomized show. However, I wouldn't be surprised because we're just getting so much great content that doesn't wrap up into a full show.
Yeah.
So we might end up doing that. And especially if people come up with a lot of good comments on that next week's show, you know, the special secret rerun. I think it would be worth doing. We might just decide to revisit that show in maybe a little bit different way.
There you go. I like that idea. Maybe it'll be randomized from here on out. All randomized all the time.
You know, I kind of like that idea. And where the full feature length shows are the exception, not the rule. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the randomized R's now. We did get a comment though on YouTube on episode 410 from Sim Rebel. I thought this was interesting, and of course that was the first show that I happened to miss. Excellent show, by the way. I really enjoyed that one. I actually made it to watch live.
Okay.
But Sim Rebel says, "Lol, where was this last week? I just put my Adventure Lab out yesterday."
Oh, bummer. That's when we talked with Kevin MacD about Adventure Labs, and he took us screen by screen through the Adventure Lab builder. If you didn't have a chance to watch that one, you should probably watch it on YouTube. That's Geo Gearheads episode 410. If not, listen to it online. We did our best to describe everything that's going on. But taking a look at the Adventure Lab builder is always fun.
Yeah, and the Twitter responses were kind of the same thing. Hey, this was great because I'm about to build a cache or lab cache. Someone else was saying, hey, I put in for it. But, in general, people really like that. So I'm happy we finally got a chance to look at that. It's something that we'd wanted to do for a while.
Right.
And now we finally got a chance to do that. And I'm sure it's going to change by the time we do another show on it, which isn't going to be very far away.
Yeah.
Hey, but before we go too far, pre-show, Bounce asked if the Prusa i3 Mark III's is a good printer because he was looking to get one. And more news that you can use. Yes, that's actually supposed to be a very, very good printer. There are some other really good printers, not generally about the same price, but depending on what you want. The Prusa i3 is what C. Nelson is using now, as I understand. So that's a good printer, and I'm thinking that it might be a good show to do in the not so distant future. Probably not till next year, but I think people are up for more 3D printing, especially since Limax wants to know, or I shouldn't say wants to know, is thinking about getting one of those Polaroid printers from Joann's. That's probably not such a good idea.
Well, that's not a 3D printer, by the way.
No, Polaroid makes 3D printers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not just the
they're
Polaroid
cheap knockoffs. No. There's the Polaroid Zincs, that do those sticky papers, but no, they're trying to get the Polaroid name, which isn't the classic Polaroid,
right?
But the Polaroid 3D printers are out in the stores. They made a big push at CES a few years back, and finally you're getting them out there. But it's cheap knockoff printers. They're going to be better than a lot of the cheap knockoff printers you find from like Amazon and whatnot, because unlike Amazon, they have to stand behind them.
Right.
Amazon, you just file for bankruptcy.
What?
Yeah, if you're on Amazon, a lot of those little companies, they import it from China, and then if there's legal problems or whatever, they just file for bankruptcy
and close up shop and move on.
Yeah, and most of them don't actually make anything anyway. It's, hey, I'm going to buy this one off the shelf from someone else and badge it. Yeah. So, I haven't heard a whole lot on those current Polaroid printers, but the first round of Polaroid printers were getting really bad results.
Well, if you're looking for an inexpensive 3D printer, I always point back to the Monoprice line of printers,
which are actually Wanhao, I believe, that makes those.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're decent little printers, easy to start up and get going. So give that a shot.
But they're not good printers. If you catch the little difference, like the Prusa is a good printer. And part of the trick with the Prusa, though, is you really want to use their software, because they've really tweaked everything for that printer, which gives you the best results.
I found that to be the case with most printers. There are some.
Most of them are using most of them are using those generic apps. They just have that profile that really makes a difference. And most of the printer manufacturers actually provide that profile. But the Prusa does some weird things that really can only be taken advantage of in the software. So if you're looking for like a really fully open source option, you probably don't want the Prusa. I might be wrong on that, but as I understand it, the Prusa has actually gone to some more specialized, not really proprietary, but specialized stuff. Both software and hardware to really make it sing. But the Prusa guy, I can't remember his name, is the guy that designed the i3 and open sourced it. So it is based on the i3 open source. This is just, he's really perfected that. So there you go. But if if you're working with certain materials, you might want a different type of printer. Oh, and he has that weird, I can't remember what it's called. And I say he, but it's, his little Prusa company. It's like 4 different spools that will automatically load and unload so that you can do multicolor, multi-material.
Really?
Yeah. So again, you have to use his own, their own software to make that work.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. If it's accessing different features of the printer that is not on a typical 3D printer, you've got to use their specialized software.
Yeah, and it's going to have to make its own little towers to dump out the I can't remember what it's called, but it flushes the old material, and so it flushes the head as it does the which wastes a lot of material, but has to be done.
It's not a lot, but yeah.
No. And there's there was one called the palette that does basically the same thing for just about anyone.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing with like the palette, it was actually trying to fuse the two filaments together before it went through the head.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it would like cut the filament from the first one, then bring in the filament from the second one, do a little fuse and push that through. That wasn't a cheap product at all. And also didn't get very good reviews on some of the earlier ones, but apparently they got it fixed and it works pretty well. And unfortunately, the towers that it creates are really problematic or were problematic. So, but yeah, so
you take white filament and a bunch of colored Sharpies, and you can have all the colors of the rainbow you want in your printout.
Well, the thing that I always wanted to do was the translucent materials mixed with the opaque materials, so that you could put like little windows in.
Mm-hmm.
So make a monkey puzzle that had a window so that you could see the puzzle as you were trying to do it. Turns out that doesn't really work because of the layer lines.
Yeah.
It's more of a frosted window.
Okay. What if you made the whole outside frosted?
I tried one of those.
Get an idea of it, of what's going on.
It's so frosted that you couldn't make out the
okay
difference. There's not enough depth. So too bad.
Well, we tried. Hey, we have more feedback. This is from MAH Day or Ma Day.
I was going to say Mayday.
Mayday. I could go with Mayday. From the Apple Podcast reviews. Thank you so much for giving us a review on Apple Podcasts. That really does help. He goes on to say, my go-to podcast for the subject. Interesting and informative content, always to the point. I have subscribed for a number of years. Good presenter rapport, and it's nice not to feel harangued into subscribing to Patreon. Please continue the good work.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And we have to say, we really appreciate everyone on Patreon. And I have actually posted a few more of the host picks on there. As I have time, I'm still trying to get around to doing it. But time has been a problem. So I apologize to our patrons. We really appreciate your support. And I will try to get more content out there, but it's few and far between, unfortunately.
Yes, sorry. Time is the fire in which we burn.
Or just go to sleep when we have a chance.
Anybody in the chat knows the reference to that? Go ahead and toss it out.
Yes, please, because I don't.
Oh, there you go.
Cashosaurus via the website says, as you know, the Cashosaurus is a huge fan of the show, and I would love a badge for my profile saying I'm a listener. Your last banner link to us section is old and needs an update. Yes, that's very old. That's pre-Geo Gearheads.
Oh, wow.
That's from Cashomaniacs. I even forgot that was on there until I got this email. So again, Cashosaurus, thank you for the reminder. I definitely want to do that. I never got around to doing it initially, and I think it's now time. We're a little bit stretched for time, as we've mentioned before. So here's what I would like to offer. Anyone who wants to try to create some badges for us, go ahead and put those together, send them in, and the best one or two will send you a tag. Help me out. The GeoGearhead's trackable tag.
There you go.
Because we still got a couple of those left because they were not cleaned by people who solved the going caching puzzle.
I thought I had one in front of me to show, but I don't seem to. I think I've given all mine away.
Yeah, I think you ran out of yours not that long ago.
Yeah.
And Doug Jones says, if only I were creative.
We all are creative in our own way.
Indeed. But we have another souvenir coming up.
Isn't this interesting? This is from the geocaching blog. Introducing 3, 2, 1, go. 3 weeks. That's December 11th to January 1st. 2 geocache outings per week. Find a geocache on 2 different days each week. Note, you can geocache for any 6 days during the 3 weeks, or break it up into 2 times per week. The choice is yours. And 1 souvenir. Earn a souvenir if you geocache 2 days per week, December 11th through January 1st. December 11th, January 1st.
So yeah, this is
1-1 to 1-1.
Yep. This is their wrap up for the year, I guess. We've had some of the first last souvenirs,
Hello,
and I'm still hoping
goodbye,
we have them.
last.
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything on it yet this year, and they announced this about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now the interesting thing that I think is this one is it only has to be 6 days, but they're advertising it as 2 per week, and it can be a event. It could be a lab cache. Adventure Lab.
Adventure Lab.
Yeah. So there's some. Yeah, it really could be. I don't think I saw virtual in the list, but I would be surprised if it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, almost anything that you can log on geocaching.com counts.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to do 3 weeks. Well, they want you to do it twice a week for 3 weeks. So, take your weekends and go find a cache each day. But it just has to be 6 days. So take the time for the holidays and cache every day, between the Christmas and the New Year holiday, and you have your souvenir.
Sounds like fun to me.
Yeah.
Everybody likes these souvenirs.
Yeah, it's something to, it's a little game to go for. So that's the way I look at it. Not so much to collect the souvenirs, though that's fun as well. Merlin 1392 gave us a quick reminder, and this is going to wrap up pretty soon. So hopefully you guys are listening to the show this weekend and can get in on it. Or, live is even better. So I don't know whether you know about this project or not, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. Laval K9 from Canada runs this project every holiday season. It's been written up in FDF magazine and usually has 50 to 75 participants every season. The mission is to send a holiday greeting card and 1 unactivated trackable coin. Claire matches up the names, trying to get them as far away as possible. Usually your mission goes across the pond, either to or from the US. You can sign up for a single mission or multiple ones. I'm usually in for a couple each season. I thought you might want to share this with your listeners. For more information, you can go to the geocaching forums and search for Joy Noel, and we'll put a link to that thread in the show notes. And I had totally forgotten about this because every year I want to do this and I miss the deadline every year. So thank you so much for that. And Chris, do you want to read this clip that I took out of the page?
Daryl, while I'm reading this, you need to pull out your phone, set an appointment so you don't miss the date.
Oh, I already did it.
Okay, good.
I did it tonight. I took the time during show prep to do it because I knew if I didn't, I wasn't going to.
Okay. It goes on to say you only need to send 1 non-activated trackable geocoin, no micros and no travel tags, and a nice Christmas card. I'm sure a lot of you will be very happy with that simple mission. So everyone who's interested, please email me your caching name, your real name, your address, and your email address. I will choose by random who sends a coin to who. The person you send the coin to is not the person you receive the coin from, unless I make a mistake. You may have to send overseas. You may have to send it overseas, but it's only a card and a coin, so it shouldn't be that expensive. It's Christmas time after all, so who cares? After sending me your message, post here in the forum. You'll have until November 24th to join, and on November 26th, I'll send you the name of the person you'll have to send the card to with his address.
So I really, really like that whole thing. But the catch, you have to do it by the 24th, and on the 26th, everyone gets their assignments. So this is almost up.
Yeah. So it is today as we're recording, it's the 21st.
Correct. So you have until Sunday to get those in, and then next week you can start mailing those out. Meanwhile, Highland Guys wrote in from the website. You might want to pass this on to your listeners. I have experienced intermittent no satellite reception on my Garmin GPS map 64ST for the last couple of months. I discovered a reference on geocaching forums to a firmware fix for this issue. I updated my unit to the newest firmware, and it appears to have resolved my issue. I also have heard from others in my area that have experienced the same issue over the last few months on a few different models of Garmin GPSRs. It seems it was an issue in having GLONASS enabled. The Garmin website indicates this fixed potential issue with GPS plus GLONASS. Hopefully this will be the same for others experiencing the same issue.
Interesting. I had an issue a couple of weeks ago with my GPSR and my cell phone. Neither one could get a decent signal. My cell phone at least had something, but the GPSR would not lock on to enough satellites to give me a location. And I'm wondering if that was part of this issue.
It might be, but I doubt it. I have the feeling this is more with updating the almanac. And, some of these, it could be with a rollover bug. But I think it's entirely an issue with the GLONASS side. Actually, Limax says he heard the satellite issue was partly due to GLONASS. And I heard a number of incidental reports that GLONASS has been experiencing some problems.
Interesting. So that, we hope they get that all worked out because, we've grown used to having GPSR or GPSRs and the GPS system. But, this feeds into the next email we've gotten from a shark. Yes, a shark sent us email. And said, I came across this article tonight. Of course, geocachers would be screwed, but who else? The article is from the BBC. The title says, what would happen if GPS, the global positioning system, stopped working?
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. It's, pretty quick and easy read, but it talks about some of the side effects. Of course, it starts off talking about all the people who would be unable to get from point A to B.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone always goes from A to B.
Well, if you're going from, point A to point B, you have to go that way. There's no other way to go. You can't go to point C to start.
Something like that. But it does kind of go on to talk about some of the other problems. And a lot of the issues that we have come from the fact that the satellite is a good source for a very good, accurate clock.
Yes. There's a lot of interesting things. A lot of the emergency services rely on GPS for location, for being able to navigate and find their ways. So, fire, police, rescue, all those, would Lyft and Uber continue to work without GPS location?
I don't believe they would, but I wouldn't be actually terribly surprised if they could.
You just put in your nearest cross streets and...
Well, yeah, and there's enough location information available to cell phones in a city that the GPS is not as effective or as required. You've got the cell towers, you've got the Wi-Fi, So you could get a fairly accurate location. And in most cases, you need to have those other signals to refine the GPS or GLONASS or whatever system. Because of all of the refraction, it's not as accurate.
Well, there's a UK government report that pegs the cost of the GPS going down at about $1 billion a day for the first 5 days. Or, maybe it's only 820 million pounds.
So in any case, it's going to be quite an unpleasant time if we actually were to have a GPS outage, which stands to reason. Think about the impact to trucking, if nothing else.
You're right.
And how much disruption we'd have in our food supply because of that.
Right. So that means grocery store shelves. You look at the hurricane hit coast and, how important it is for the big box stores to have supplies ready when these hurricanes are coming in, because the media always shows the empty shelves of they couldn't get enough water in. Well, they knew it was coming. They could do it. But one thing this article points out, and I never considered it, GPS is sometimes called the invisible utility. So, like power, water, it's a bit of a utility, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, again, one of those things that was set up that is ubiquitous access that eventually becomes just part of the way things work.
So, not to mention what the military would do without GPSR, but they do plan for that.
Well, and think about this kind of seriously. How much would be affected if the internet were to go down at this point?
Ooh.
And this is a newer technology that we've really only had in most people's hands within the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, how much of our economy is based on the internet? You look at Amazon. We go, oh yeah, you can get anything you want at Amazon. Do you realize how huge Amazon is?
Yeah. Amazon would be in really bad shape, but it would cripple most commerce because almost everything these days travels over the internet. You couldn't even buy a hamburger at the McDonald's because your credit card machines go down.
Right. So yeah, that's good. Credit card machines. Any of the business to business transactions, all based on the internet.
Yeah.
All banking would be closed.
A lot of the banking still happens on private networks. So you probably could survive with some of the big transfers, but almost everything branch to branch still happens over VPNs on, public internet. So, it's networks within the network, but it's still using the internet as the backbone. So we would have some serious problems if the internet went down. And as critical as the GPS system is, it's nowhere near as much, I think, as the internet would be.
Right. Well, without the internet, I mean, geocaching would just be done.
Well, as long as you have your pocket queries, you're fine. For a little while. Yeah. All right. The next article actually comes to us from The Verge, but I heard about it on Daily Tech News show as I was driving to work today. And it's Google has new tools for Google Earth that lets you build your own tour on Google Earth, on the map with the photos and that kind of thing. So this is not really new in that it's been available to select folks to build their tours before, but now this is opened up so that all of us can do it. So I'm actually kind of excited to see not just, the here's where I went on vacation and here's some of my photos on a map, as I am to see what people do with this with their own cool tours and stuff. And it's not necessarily something that you could use like as a Where I Go replacement, but for storytelling, you could do a sequential story this way. and that could be interesting. Think about maybe trying to put together something in the way of like a puzzle cache using this tool.
Ooh.
So now you have to go on this guided tour. You're going to take people to these locations and show them something that when they get to that location, you have to find this object and there's a number on the back. When you find all 4, you have the code to open the lock at the end. So I think we could get some really cool, interesting things that way. But these are stories that you can now share to just your friends, and it's no longer going to be the private secret parties. Well, they're not secret, but you know what I mean. The select parties building the tours that you can't create your own. So I'm excited about it. We'll see if it actually works, and I'm gonna have to go and get Google Earth again because I haven't had Google Earth in years.
Yeah, that gives me a reason to go download it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's only available, I think, to build on the web version or something like that. But I closed the story again, so I forget what it said. But it is going to, or you can't do it. You can create, or you can view them from the apps on iOS and Android. You can't create them except on the desktop. Okay. That's basically what it comes down to.
Well, the next story I find very interesting, Daryl, because we talk each week, each randomized show about the new GPSR or GPS satellites being launched. And, in order to make space for these, some old ones have to be decommissioned. So our favorite military branch, the 2nd Space Operations Squadron, the 2SOPs, decommissioned satellite vehicle number 38 to give way to the next generation of GPS-3 satellites at Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado. So the squadron is disposing of the satellite because it's at the end of its operational life. 22 years. Nobody keeps a cell phone or computer for 22 years, but we've kept a GPS satellite that long.
Yes, but they're nowhere near as expensive as a satellite is.
Oh, okay.
Because, you imagine how much it costs to build the satellite and how much it costs to actually launch the thing into space.
It's not just like going and,
you have to make sure these things last for quite a long time.
So 22 years, and it's not that it's failed, it's reached the end of its life. So interestingly enough, the final command sent to it is to turn its transmitter off. So after that, it'll be basically dead in the air and it'll be tracked as space debris. Space Vehicle 38, Limax wants to know, was that part of GPS 2? It has to be. It doesn't say what it is in here.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that wasn't GPS 2 at this point, and I think the plan is, if I remember correctly, and Limax might know better than I do, but I think the plan is that all of the GPS 2s are going to be replaced over the next 5 or 10 years.
Right. As GPS 3 comes in. And
the GPS 3 and the GPS 3F.
Right.
I think that's what they were calling the second one, or the second generation of that.
So it's being put into MEO, or medium Earth orbit. And Wetcoaster wants to know if they purchase the extended warranty. Well, I would say after 22 years, they got their money out of that warranty.
Well,
really,
I think
Geek Squad to make a house call, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's a warranty. I think it's more of like a guarantee, and it's built into the bidding process.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you don't want it to go down, and since there's no repairs, you pretty much have to make sure that they're doing the they're going to give you the value back if it fails, because you're not going to go up and fix it.
I found it. It's at the very end of the article, Daryl.
Oh, okay.
SV-38 is a Block 2A vehicle, which had a design life of 7.5 years. Most of the Constellation satellites operate well beyond this time. As noted, the satellite lasted 22 years.
And Limax says that that's his best guess. He's sure they'll decommission the GPS 2 first before the GPS 2F. And I forgot about the A's entirely.
Yeah, so this is 2A.
Oh, hey, we got to put this up here because it's the first comment I think we've had from Facebook.
Geek Squad.
Indiana Darrell says Geek Squad. Yeah, I want to be on that Geek Squad. I'll take the pay cut. Just, I get to be the guy that goes up and fixes the satellites.
Daryl, do you remember the TV show Salvage One?
No.
Guy builds a rocket in his backyard because he wants to go salvage the gold off of the lunar lander and all the Apollo missions up there. So he built his own rocket, went up to the moon, and it was I don't know if it was a made-for-TV movie, but they made a TV series out of it.
Wow. How bizarre. And, I thought you were going to go for Chuck. That's going to have to be one of my picks for Patreons. So I'll put that up there. All right. Next article we've got is from iMore, which says developers have less than a year to update their push notifications. So kind of on the same lines of the obsolescence, Apple is actually going to shut down the older protocols, and now everyone has to be moving. You don't have to do it yet, but move to the HTTP 2 based APN provider APIs, and anything that's using the older stuff is going to get shut down in November of 2020. So for most of the things, this isn't going to be a problem. They're going, they're updating. They want to get off the older systems because you don't want to be using the less secure and everything APIs for push notifications. But where this does become a potential problem is in those older apps that just don't have a whole lot of support anymore. And my thought on this is it's not going to be a problem for the unsupported apps because they probably have shut down those servers that were doing the push notifications. But for the folks that maybe one little thing could throw them over the edge, this is probably going to be that straw that broke the camel's back.
Mm-hmm. So, Daryl, is that going to affect us in the GPS world, in the geocaching world? Are there geocaching apps that
do push notifications?
Yeah.
The only one that I know of that's doing push notifications right now is the official app, which we shouldn't call it the official app, but the official app is the only one that's going to be
your app.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only one that's doing the push notifications. Is only for the messages. And I'm sure that they're using the newer, more common protocols. Mm-hmm. And if I remember the way that this actually works for the bulk of the apps, they're using other services to do this anyway. So it's up to the service to do to make the modifications. It's just part of the paid service that they've subscribed to. But this is also why you don't see push notifications in some apps. They have to have those servers.
Mm-hmm.
That's more money, or, so if you're doing a free app, you really can't afford to do that. Ad supported, at least you're getting something and
right.
You can do it. Paid, if it's a one-time subscription, well, you can't really afford to do that either. Because how can you afford to keep that server running for 5 years if someone gave you $3 up front?
Yep.
This is part of why you're seeing so many of these apps go to subscriptions, or upgrade for the subscription. So I'm kind of curious from the audience, what do people think about the SaaS, as we call it now, subscription or software as a service model, and with all of these subscriptions on the software where you have to pay to use the software on a regular, ongoing basis? Because I kind of hate it, but at this point, I'm kind of used to the subscriptions.
I fought against it, but I can see the advantages to it.
Well, and I don't have a problem with it on stuff like this, where it's an ongoing subscription, where you're getting that value over time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're selling me the service, fine. If you're selling me the software over time, like the Adobe products is a perfect example of this, that I have a problem with. Photoshop is a one-time write it and you're done. And not that you can't, that you don't have to update it and have new features and everything, but that I do have a problem with the SaaS model. But when it's a hosted service, then, or if it's, servers running behind the software to make the thing work, then I don't have a problem. To me, it's the difference of the way that it works and why am I doing it?
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious mostly because, part of my job is dealing with this stuff and I don't like having to pay for some of it. But at the same time, a lot of these services I can actually afford to purchase for the company because it's not a huge upfront. Caching Dead says we all pay one way or another.
That's true.
Now, okay, so here's the difference. Oh, wait. Limax said he can't get behind SaaS but has no choice. But here's the real difference about paying one way or the other. When I got the Creative Cloud is the current version, but the Creative Suite before that, I would skip every other version of the software.
Right. That was the accepted way to do it.
Right. I wasn't doing enough with it that I needed the features. I didn't need the updates. So I was really just doing it like every other one. So it cut my cost down. Now I have to pay for it every time, and I'm paying much more than I did before. So I pay basically for every yearly update, which I only paid every other year before. And, with the Adobe suite, I use it to produce the, produce is probably the over exaggeration of what we do for the title slides, but I use it for the title slides on this show. That's at this point the only reason I can justify paying for it, because I don't use the suite enough at this point to pay that much. And if we look at it that way, that I'm buying the suite for the show, it's actually more expensive than any other expenditure on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like it. Anyway, that's enough of that because it's getting long and
to get behind GIMP.
It's not. I do use a couple of the other image editors. Photoshop is not my go-to image editor. Okay. The problem is that I need some of the features for the templating and the text manipulation. And I could go down to just Photoshop, but I use Illustrator and InDesign quite frequently. So a lot of this stuff that you'll see come out for, even like stickers for return mailings, those are done in InDesign. But we did postcards a couple of times. We've done some of the promo mailing kind of things, the banners and that kind of stuff that we've done. That's all coming out of multiple apps, usually Illustrator, which is what I've done to do the design of coins and whatnot. So it's not just one tool, and Illustrator is one of those tools that there really isn't a good alternative out there. Photo editing, yeah, there's a ton of great tools out there. So Photoshop really is not necessarily the one I would use if I started again today, but again, I've used it for, little bit of trivia. I was a beta tester on version 2 of Photoshop. I actually knew the Knoll brothers.
Version 2.
Actually, no. Sorry, 1.1. We met them. The place I was working at the time was one of the big guys in multimedia and desktop publishing and that kind of stuff. And we met them through some of the publishing guys, the print guys, and they were still living in Ann Arbor at the time.
Okay.
So,
I didn't know it had a Michigan start.
Yeah. I think they went to U of M. I can't remember.
Well,
I was trying to figure that out.
That's the reason I don't use it right there, Daryl.
Yeah,
State boy.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a Michigan U of M product, so you Ohio guys railed against it.
We can't.
You had to use Letraset.
Not use it.
Yeah, but you had to use Letraset. And look where that ended up.
No. Oh, remember Dittos when you had to go use the Ditto machine?
Oh yeah. Mimeograph.
Mimeograph. That was the better word for you. Anyway, Daryl.
And make the stencils. I loved making the stencils. I loved the smell when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My mom was a teacher, so we had a Ditto machine in the basement.
Did you really?
Yep.
Wow.
Any wonder how I got into graphic arts?
No, not now. That also makes you very old.
Yes.
In software years, you're ancient.
You know, I don't think most of the people at work have any idea how old I actually am. But I am one of the oldest people on the floor. There are some who are older than me at the office, but not many. That's kind of scary.
Yes, kind of.
All right.
Looking over it.
On that joyful note, why don't we wrap up the show?
Oh.
And
it's good
remember, next week, there's not going to be a live show. We're not going to do it. No live show at all.
We need a live show.
We're going to have a dead show. Not a live show, a dead show.
We were live at one time, and we recorded this show.
Oh, Limax says he still has some of the old paper with the purple ink, which is the mimeograph machines we were just talking about.
Like the smell.
Yes. Oh, man, that smell. Very toxic. And I also used to put my hands right in the fixer. Right in the fixer. Which most people aren't going to recognize what that is either, but it's very dangerous. Don't do it. Yeah, I went to college and they're like, no, can't do that anymore. No hands in fixer.
But
like, really?
That's how you get everything covered evenly.
Okay. I'll let you read this from Wet Coaster. This is great.
Coaster says, people don't know how old I am until I stand up. The pops, cracks, and groans give it away. Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Especially when I've been sitting too long. All right. So with that, let's wrap up the show. And remember, next week, there's no live show, but we'll be back the week after. Check your feeds for the secret episode from the we'll cut it this much. It's going to be from the first year.
Oh.
So there you go. We'll let you know that much.
And it's going to talk about something we touched on tonight.
Well, that's not hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's a randomized show. Oh, goodness. Anyway, so yeah, come back in 2 weeks for the live show. And we will have a special episode next week, which is a rerun, but I don't think anyone's going to really remember it unless they've recently gone back to episode 1. And if they have, my apologies. Those were some old, difficult episodes. But no, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh, beta.
But not Beta Max, just Beta. All right. So check the Cashmaniacs website at cashmaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cashmaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cashmaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cashmaniacs shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2019 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cashmaniacs.